gentlemen, this is Charles Folkart. Welcome. I've lived and worked in four different non-white third world nations for over an almost 13-year period. I've lived in Nicaragua, Thailand, Qatar, and South Korea. I've traveled in over 24 other non-white nations. I've been in every country in Central America except Panama. Been all over Asia, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Laos, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan, and others I've forgotten. Several of these countries I've traveled to 2 and 3 times, and for several days and even weeks at a time. But after 13 years, I grew tired of living among Asians, among Asian culture, among people who think and act differently than I do, people who I could not relate to, and who could not relate to me as much as they could relate to their own people, and as much as I could relate to my own people. So, in 2012, I returned to the United States. I had to choose a location in which to settle down in within the United States, and I chose Montana for two main reasons. Its natural beauty. I really like the mountains and the trees and the forests and the rivers, and also because Montana had a mostly Caucasian population. I have nothing, and I want to repeat this, I have nothing against the people of other races or cultures. But during my many years living among other races, I began to realize, despite the brainwashing and programming I was subject to all my life in the United States, it is natural, it is normal for me to prefer to live among my own race, among my own people. Like I said, I have nothing against non-Caucasians. I just now think, after all those years abroad, that they should live in their own nations, and they should allow us Caucasians to live among our own kind, among our own people, in our own nations. My thinking has scriptural support. Deuteronomy 32:8 says, "When the Most High God divided to the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel." You see this? He set the bounds. He set the boundaries. Acts 17:26, "And he hath made of one blood of all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bounds of their habitation." It's been said, good fences make good neighbors. It should be obvious to any critical thinker that the breakdown of the boundaries between the different races has resulted in nothing but problems in every nation that this breakdown has occurred. Here in the United States, in Europe, in Yugoslavia, in South Africa, in Palestine, where the Jews have forced themselves since 1948 upon the Palestinians. And since that time, there's been nothing but problems in between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The list of problem areas in the world due to this lack of good fences is long and growing. Here's the fence. Here's the wall the Israelis built in Palestine to keep the Palestinians out of certain areas of their own country, their own nation. And here's another example of the wall that's meant to keep the Palestinians out of Israel, or out of the Palestinians' own country. You know what? A lot of you aren't going to like this, but I think this is very unnatural. It's not normal. It's not normal for a beautiful white woman to marry a black man and have a mixed race children. I could go on and talk about all the problems that the races have when they mix. I've seen many mixed race couples and families, but that isn't the issue here. And I want to. This is normal, folks. A white couple having white children. Their their children look like them.
Clean your neighbors. And another thing, when you say integration, it comes under intermarriage too, right? All been together.
Right, sure.
And I'm sure no intelligent white person watching this show, no intelligent white man in his or her right white mind want black boys and black girls marrying their white sons and daughters, and in return introducing their grandchildren as half-brown, kinky-haired black people. And I'm sure,
I wouldn't object to that.
well, you wouldn't, but a lot of
Well, I'm sure a lot of people. No, it's the
what I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to say is this. You don't have it. You say you don't. You don't have it. You really ain't got it. You don't show. You got to say that.
No, that's not true.
Why would you want to do that?
Because I don't think I'm any different from you. You see.
Yeah, we much different.
I mean, I think society's made us
You know
different.
we're different. We all together.
But society's made us different.
No, not society. God made us different.
No, we're just human beings. He made all of us.
We all listen. Bluebirds fly with bluebirds. Red birds want to be with red birds. Listen. Tell me when I'm wrong. Pigeons want to be with pigeons. Tell me when I'm wrong. We should have. Right, they don't have intelligence, but yet they stay together. We should have more intelligence than them, right? Buzzards are with buzzards. Buzzards are with buzzards. Bluebirds are with bluebirds. They all are birds, but they got different cultures. The eagles like to hang out in the mountains. The buzzard like to fly around the desert. The bluebird like to fly around the trees and the grass.
Problems a buzzard mating with a sparrow, wouldn't it?
What?
There was certain.
Right. And we have problems too. I don't see no black and white couples in England or America walking around proud holding their children.
That's because society.
And going out.
That's society's fault. I mean, we've got to educate people around it.
Well, life is too short for me to be raised catching hell for something like that. I'd rather go and be my own. I have a beautiful daughter, beautiful wife. They look like me. We're all happy, and I don't have no trouble. I have no trouble. I ain't that much in love with no woman to go through all that hell. Ain't no one woman that good. You understand?
I understand, yeah. I do understand. I understand. I think it's sad that.
It ain't sad because I want my child to look like me. Every intelligent person wants his child to look like him. I'm sad because I want to blot out my race and lose my beautiful identity. Chinese love Chinese. They love the little slanted-eyed, pretty brown-skinned babies. Pakistanis love their culture. Jewish people love their culture. A lot of Catholics, they want to marry them a Catholic. They want the religion to stay the same. Who want to spot up yourself and kill your race? You a hate of your people if you don't want to stay who you are. You shame what God made you. God didn't make no mistake. He made us all like we were.
I think that's a philosophy of despair.
Despair.
I really do.
It ain't no
Yeah?
despair. Number one, can't no woman. Let me tell you something. No, I want to tell you. Listen, no woman on this whole earth, not even a black woman in Muslim countries, can please me and cook for me and socialize and talk to me like my American black woman. No woman, and last is a white woman, can really identify with me and my feelings and the way I act and the way I talk. And you can't take no Chinese man and give him no Puerto Rican woman and holler about we're in love and you emotionally in love and physically, but really they're not happy because she's gonna hear some Puerto Rican music, he's gonna hear some Chinese music. And they're gonna be clashing all the time.
Got more sense.
It's just nature. You can do what you want, but it's nature to want to be with your own. I want to be with my own.
Like I said, I have nothing against non-Caucasians. I just now think they should live in their own nations and allow us Caucasians to live among our own kind, among our own people, in our own nations. One thing I learned while living abroad all those years is that it is normal, it is natural for one to put their own race first, to prefer their own race, to put the needs of their own race, my own family, if you will, before the needs of others. This putting one's own people first, to giving one's own race priority, is a trait I actually learned during my 5 years living and working in South Korea. While in South Korea, I realized the Koreans are an ethnocentric people. That is, they put the interest of their own people ahead of other races, of other people. I could give you example after example after example where this is true. I learned that the South Koreans are what many Caucasians, because of we've been brainwashed and programmed, that would consider wrongly, I might add, as racist. Racist because they think highly of their own people. They are Korean supremacists, if you will, and put the needs of their own people, their own nation, first and foremost, ahead of other non-Koreans. And quite frankly, I've learned that this is quite normal. It's unnatural for people to put other people, other races ahead of their own race. From the South Koreans, I learned to be, quote, racist. That is, to put the interests and concerns of my own race, the Caucasian race, first and foremost. There is scriptural support for this view. Galatians 6:10. As we have therefore opportunity, let us do good unto all men, especially unto them who are of the household of faith. And then Mark 12, the King James, and thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind, and with all thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is like, namely this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. There is none other commandment greater than these. If you look up the word neighbor, you'll find it means your near kin, people of the same race as you, the same ethnicity as yourself, not people of other races, not some faraway race in India, Africa, or South America. Keep in mind, in context, the commandment is referring to how Israelites, the Caucasian race, are to love their fellow Israelites, their fellow Caucasians. This is the fact, this is the truth, whether you like it or not. This is the reality. We Israelite Caucasians are to love our near kin, our own race. This is God's way, kind after kind. However, I love to travel. I love experiencing new places. I love seeing different cultures, experiencing different cultures, different local customs, peoples, and food, etc. I've always wanted to visit both my mother's and my father's family home countries, which is Belgium and Italy. These people are my kin, my kind, my neighbors. Now, some people will say the Belgium and the Italy are different people. Well, they're the same race. They're of different tribes of the Israelites. And we can't take the time now to go into that, but I can show you that the Belgians and the Italy and the Italians and the French and the Germans and the British and the Swedes and the Norwegians and the who else could we put in there? Uh, the Spaniards. They're all related. They're all of the same family of Jacob Israel. These people are my kin, my kind, and my neighbors. But despite all my travels, I have yet to visit my kin, my people in Europe. And with all that is happening in Europe these days, I began to realize that my grandparents' home countries are going to be completely changed from what they were when my grandparents lived there. If I didn't get to Europe soon, I might not see Europe as it has been for hundreds and hundreds of years. Europe would no longer be Europe. and that would be due to the invasion into Europe by all the non-Europeans. I didn't want to get to Belgium to see a mosque. I just wanted to see Belgium and Italy as my parents' did. For example, if you visit London, you'll see as many non-Brits there as you do indigenous British people. Sweden is now the rape capital of Europe, with white Swedish women being raped by the non-white Arab and African invaders. The list of ruined European nations is long and rapidly growing. So we fast forward to today. With the recent bombing in Belgium, I realized that not only is Belgium not the same homogeneous white nation my grandparents lived in, Belgium is no longer a safe nation to visit. And I was reading online here recently. I don't own a TV or watch television. And I ran across this article about Belgium being a failed state. So here's that album I was telling you about. This is by Daniel Hannan, and he was an MEP. I'm not sure what ministry or something in southeast of England. So I figured this guy knows what he's talking about. He lives there in Europe, and he says Belgium is a failed state. And this is a scene from Belgium, and here's the tourists all taking pictures and everything. And this is what I'd like to go and see. I'd like to go see where my grandparents were born, in Belgium. And I'm not going to read the article here, but I came down to this point right here. All human beings crave a sense of belonging. And I began to realize, that's what I've been looking for a long time in my life. A sense of belonging. Where do I belong? What people what people do I belong to? And as an American, we don't get that. We've kind of gotten away from that. When you ask somebody, when you first meet somebody, you say, "Where are you from?" And they'll tell you, "I'm from Detroit," or "I'm from St. Louis," or "I'm from this place or that place." They don't say, "My grandparents were from Belgium," or "My grandparents were from Italy, so I'm a Belgian," or "I'm an Italian," or "I'm a German." And so that is what I have begun, and have for quite a while now, began to realize what's important is a sense of belonging. And my grandparents came to the United States on the boat, as they say, through New York in the early 1990s. In the late 1890s. And they were from Belgium. They eventually settled in Harper Woods, Michigan, a suburb of Detroit. And my father, he built a home in St. Clair's, and I was born in Grosse Pointe, Michigan, also a suburb of Detroit. And I've just begun to realize that I'm not going to be able to go and see where my parents came from, because it's unsafe. I got to go there. When I lived in Detroit in the 1950s and 60s, it was a nice place to live. And as you can see here, this is an assembly line for an automobile. I'm not sure which one this is, but Detroit was the manufacturing center of the world back in the 1950s and 1960s. And there was a lot of money being made here because we produced. You don't get wealth unless you produce something that other people are willing to pay you for. And here we see in an assembly line, and I'll mention here that Henry Ford used to be one of my heroes when I was a young man, and in many ways he still is. He was very insightful, very intelligent man. And here we see the assembly line, and you can see they're mostly white men working there. And I'm going to let someone else, I'll discuss the problems now that are in my hometown and why I won't be able to return to my hometown.
So now, if you look at Detroit, it looks like a city that's been bombed out, you know? I think it's J.P. Morgan Chase and company that was able to give Detroit, or at least make a loan, the $100 million investment in Detroit to help bolster the city's economy. The J.P. Morgan Chase, in their annual meeting, after they dumped that $100 million into the Detroit economy, say that in just 1 year they're beginning to see great progress. I don't know what they've identified as such. You know, the whole idea about building an economy and jobs, they always talk about dumping money into real estate or into programs, but they never talk about the real problem in Detroit. The real problem is niggerism. That's the real problem. And that's the problem in all ghettos. That's the problem, you know, niggerism, where you got people who have just been, they have dyed in the wool, if you will, against white America, against American structure, and they have no work ethic. You can't get a job. You can build all the jobs you want. You can't make these young boys go to work. They're not going to do it. The schools teach niggerism. Niggerism is to let the government take care of you. The government owes you everything. The government owes you a house. It owes you education. It owes you income. It owes you a track phone. It owes you a pair of sneakers. I mean, and this is niggerism. And that's what all the black, the Hamite, if you will, politicians, and progressive, if you will, Japheth politicians, that's what they teach. And niggas have just been beat down to the point where they have no work ethic. Detroit is suffering from a case of niggerism. And $100 million thing ain't gonna go nowhere except into the hands of all the thieves and drug dealers and politicians, and it'll be right back where it started from. Niggerism in Detroit.
So as me being a white man would have said what Pastor Manning said, I'd be called a racist and a hater and a bigot and all those other names that everybody's been programmed to say when you tell the truth. But folks, the problem with Detroit is that the white people have moved out, left the black, the Detroit area was left to the blacks. It's not coming back. And there's no way that I would even consider going and living back in my hometown. My parents divorced in the early 1960s. My mother moved us 3 boys to Southern California, and we moved to West Covina. So I went to high school at West Covina High School. I graduated in 1971. And here's a picture they have. We have our upcoming reunion, our 45-year reunion. Wow, it's amazing how those years went by so fast. Anyway, here's my class of 71. They have this picture here. I remember this guy. I can't remember his name. Him and I were friends. And I remember this guy a little bit, too. We were friends. But you'll see they're all white. There's 2 blacks, one here, one there. There was only a handful of blacks at my school, and of course they have to put a couple in the picture. But we were the Spartans, and our crosstown rival were the Trojans. And I thought that was appropriate. I look back now and I go, wow, that was an Anglo-Saxon Greek background, our mascots. And very fitting for us as Israelites. But we had a pretty good sports program. I got my letter in track, and I had a good time in high school. But I want to show you how things have changed since 1971. Here's my alma mater, high school alma mater now in 2016, 45 years later. And it's basically all Mexicans now. you look at these pictures closely. There's not very many whites there. They're Asians and mestizos. They've changed the mascot now. It's called the Bulldogs. They've changed the mascot to a Anglo-Saxon mascot. I went here to this site, streetgangs.com. I want to show you what is going on in the town I went to high school in. And you'll see down here as you scroll down, West Covina's got about 100,000 people, 52% of which are Hispanic, 25% Asian, and 4% are black. So only about 35% are white, 34% are foreign-born, almost 55% speak a language other than English, and there's Hispanic gangs in West Covina. Never had an Hispanic gang when I went there during high school years. My mother had to move out from the house that we lived in because she felt unsafe. She didn't feel unsafe because of the whites in the area, but because of all the Mexicans that had moved in. And I went back there, I forget when it was, in the 80s. And while my mother still lived there, there was graffiti everywhere, all the walls, all everywhere. And it looked like a town in Mexico. I've traveled in Mexico, all over Mexico, and that town, West Covina, where I grew up in, basically looks like it could be in Mexico now. So the town where I went to high school now, I wouldn't even consider moving back there to live because it's been overtaken by non-whites. So I went to this website here and report immigrant population over 15% in record 16 states, over 25% in 6. According to interactive maps unveiled Monday by CIS, there were no states in 1970 that recorded immigrant populations over 15%. Today, 1/3 of the nation's states register over 15% immigrant. California, Nevada, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, Maryland, Georgia, Virginia, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Delaware, and Oregon. And here we have California. I already explained why I can't stay. I didn't want to stay in California. It's been overrun by non-whites. And you'll see here I chose Montana and because of the beauty and the fact that there are people of my own race here. I don't feel like a minority in my own country, in my own state. But I ask you people, how much longer are we going to allow our nation to be invaded? We're being invaded by non-whites. And don't tell me that we've been a country of immigrants. We've been a nation of immigrants from Western European, from Caucasian nations of Europe, not from non-white nations of Asia and some in Africa and from Central America. We're turning our country into a third world nation. Here we have a graph. A picture shows we had about 13.5 million of immigrants, and we're talking about non-white immigrants, people here, and now it's up to 18.9, almost 20%. And you know what? I don't believe this. I think it's a lot higher than this. They can't even record all the people. We've got so many illegal non-white immigrants in the United States now, and they can hide. We have a huge country, and they can hide all over the country, and you wouldn't even know it. You can't tell. You live here in Montana, you don't see any non-whites that much yet, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute. That's going to there's people working hard to make Montana and Wyoming and other non-white areas of the country into havens for non-white immigrants. Here we have an article. It's not that old. Where's the date? Here's March the 4th. It isn't even a month old. Missoula marches in support of Syrian refugees. There was a rally and there was a march, and people were carrying signs. The foolish, naive Caucasian race people were holding up signs with the slogans, "Compassion is greater than fear," "Immigrant rights are human rights," and "Welcome all peaceful beings." When the rally reached Caras Park, everyone was quiet as the series of speakers took the stage. Here we have Lori Franklin, Missoula's first female rabbi and the spiritual leader at Missoula's only Jewish synagogue, Har Shalom. And this is the point I want to make here. The Jews, the chosen ones, are the ones who are behind this immigration push into Europe and the United States and other white nations. These Jews are pushing immigration into every other country, every white country in the world except Israel. Israel does not accept any non-Jewish immigrants. Even though they're right there in the Middle East, they don't take a single one. And this stuff, and this guy here, Jamil, I can't even pronounce his name, an American citizen. You got to make sure you see that. A 20-year-old Missoula, brainwashed, non-white. He come from Africa. I would suggest you go back to Africa and you improve your own country. You don't need to come here to our country and then encourage and promote the immigration of other non-whites into our country. You go back to Africa and you help turn your country into some place that other non-whites want to live. But that's not what they're doing. I want to end up here. These people, the whites have got to quit with this. They're not seeing the big picture. This Mr. Buterball said, "It's not that we are anti-refugee, but the reality is that there is a percentage of them that want to do us harm. They also don't always want to be part of our community. They keep themselves isolated." You're missing the bigger picture. Most white people miss the bigger picture. The bigger picture is we whites need to have a place, a location, a nation that we can call our own. We're losing them. Everywhere in the world where we whites have had a home, Europe, Australia, South Africa, Rhodesia, New Zealand, Canada, we're being invaded by non-whites. When I go to Japan, what do I see in Japan? I see Japanese. When I go to the Philippines, what do I see? I see the Philippines. I see the Filipinos. When I lived in Qatar, what did I see? I saw the Qataris, and they keep very, very close tabs on who comes into their country. And you have to get a visa in Qatar to leave the country. Almost every Arab country that I know of, you have to have an exit visa. They keep very, very strict control on who comes in and who goes out. And here in the United States and other Western European countries, they're allowing these people to flood into our nations with very little control. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they go to. And this has got to stop, people. White people have got to wake up. They've got to stop being concerned about what other people think. And we need to start calling a spade a spade. We need to start calling out these Jews like this Lori Franklin, a female rabbi of all things, from pushing immigration, non-white immigration, into non-white countries. I mean, into white countries. We've got to stop allowing the Jews like Barbara Specter and others pushing and pushing and pushing non-white invasion into white countries. This has got to stop, people, or we're not going to have any place to call our own. We're not going to have a place where we belong and only we belong. Okay, to end up, I want to bring you these points. My grandparents' country of Belgium is a place I would not want to live because of the invading non-Belgians have made it unsafe. My parents in my hometown of Detroit is a place I do not want to live because the blacks have made it unsafe. The city my mother had to move out of in the 1980s because of the mestizos made it unsafe. And the place I went to high school is now a place I would not want to live because it is now unsafe because of the mestizo gangs. I don't want to live in California because of the invading non-whites have essentially taken over many parts of the state and made living there dangerous for whites. Will my children not be able to come visit Montana, known as the last best place, because non-whites have made it unsafe, have made it an unsafe place to visit, much less live? Within my lifetime, whites have ruined Belgium, Detroit, West Covina, and the rest of Southern California and are now set to invade Montana. So my questions to my fellow Caucasians are these. When are you going to wake up to the fact that our white nations are being destroyed by non-white invaders? When will you start to resist this invasion so your children and your grandchildren will have a safe place to call home? You've got to start losing your fear of being called a racist, a hater, a bigot, and all these other terms that are used to keep us from speaking out. Don't let what's happening in Europe happen here in the United States. I want to thank you for watching. Please, if you do, like, subscribing confers many benefits to both you and I. So please subscribe and most of all, share this video with others. Time is short. Do something. Do something. Speak out. Support those who are speaking out. Do something to stop this invasion of the nations your grandparents built. Also, you can visit charlesfolkart.com and Keyrex Replies for more information. Once again, I thank you for watching. See ya.